Jabbar Adesada. Is that how I pronounce your last name?
Absolutely. That was perfect.
Good, good. Tell us where you're from, who you are, what you do, and what you got going on.
Yeah, so my name is Jabbar Adesada. I'm a 21-year-old United States Marine and real estate investor. I'm stationed down in Beaufort, South Carolina. I live in Savannah, and I just buy real estate. I have a few properties. I have 10 units now, two more under contract. 9 of them are short-term rentals, and I'm just plugging away at just building that real estate empire. So
That's awesome, man. So, thank you for serving.
I
And
appreciate it.
um, so, how long have you owned real estate? What all facets of real estate do you own? I know you own short term rentals because that's how we met.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about what you've got your hands involved in.
Yeah, so I bought my first property February of last year when I was 19 years old. I had got into it because I was trying to be financially independent. I had met somebody throughout military training that already was, and he kind of motivated me to get into investing and financial freedom and all that stuff. So I think I found out about real estate when I was turning 19, and then 5 months later, I bought my first property. It was like a house hack. I rented it by the bedroom, slept on a futon, and it doubled my income. And I was like hooked, right? Because it had worked. Like this real estate thing that everyone was calling me so crazy for getting into was actually like going really, really well for me. So then that's when I started thinking, like, how can I kind of speed this up? Because I'd spent all my money on that first property. And that's when I started this model of basically using other people's money and other people's credit to buy houses. And so that's kind of some of the things I've done. I've house hacked again. I bought a 4-unit property downtown Savannah that's crushing it as well. And then I have done like sub two, like creative finance. So I bought a property where I took over someone else's mortgage, 0 down, 2.6% interest rate, and that thing is a cash flow cow. So it's kind of like buying a bunch of these properties any way I can.
Okay. All right. So we got a lot to break down. So let's I don't do this often, but I feel like maybe we need to go here. Give us a little bit about where you're from and what your uh I guess what your family makeup was like back
Yeah.
home and how you got into the military, just to kind of bring us, from A to Z, because you just unpacked a lot right there just in the first 3 minutes. It's like, wow, okay, let's just find out who Jabbar really is, where he's from, and how he got here.
Yeah. So I grew up, I'm like everyone else. I had a crappy childhood. So parents divorced when I was 3 years old. I'm Nigerian American. So both my parents are from Nigeria. And so when my parents divorced, I was actually abused every day, like physically, emotionally, all that stuff until I was 15. When I was 15, I had to get taken away from my mother, who I was living with at the time, to go live with my father. And I would say that was when my life the trajectory of my life kind of changed for the better because instead of like being abused, like not eating a lot and all those different things, I kind of got to live like this cush middle class lifestyle with my dad. He was super hard on me, trying to kind of get me out of that. How do I say this in a politically correct manner?
Oh,
That
just
hood mentality, trying to
yeah.
get me out that hood mentality
Okay.
into like an upstanding citizen. So 15, I was really big into basketball, and that was my life, right? I had a big work ethic. I'm talking like 5 o'clock in the morning to 8 a.m. working out, go to school, work out again, skip class to work out, after school practice from 3 o'clock to 6 p.m. Didn't do homework, came back from school after practice, and then played pickup ball outside. So like really, really big into basketball. And then one day my dad got upset with me because I had an assignment that my church pastor gave us, and it was to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so he brought 2 of my most prized possessions. Like these things were the most important thing to me in the world, my basketballs, and he popped them both like with a knife in front of me. And he gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad to read. And he told me I couldn't play basketball anymore. And so when he did that, it kind of made me think about life outside of basketball. And so at first, like every Nigerian kid, every African, every immigrant, I thought I wanted to be a doctor.
Mhm.
So I was going around that path, and I found a path for the military to pay for it. So I became a Marine, enlisted in the Marine Corps to kind of get the education benefits. So I was trying to be strategic, not have
Gotcha.
debt. And then I figured I can live a bigger, better, and more fulfilling life by going the entrepreneur life, and buying properties, investing in real estate, and make more than doctors and lawyers and all those things. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of like the family upbringing. But neither of my parents are in real estate. They're not big into investing. I don't come from like money. I've not used any of my family's money to invest in real estate. That's not the OPM that I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah, no, man, it's a great story. Yeah, so you're like a normal human being, just like everybody else. If you got involved in real estate really, really young, I'm sure if you're not already at least a paper millionaire, you're going to be one very soon. How do you feel about yourself at 21 years old? Been doing this for a couple of years now. I mean, you feel like your life is on par for the course?
Yeah. So like every time like I think about this, it's like because people will be like, "Oh, you're doing so well for your age," and I don't care, right? Because I want to
Yeah.
do well for entrepreneurs. So for me, I have big goals that I haven't hit yet. So I've just been grinding away at hitting those goals, and those goals aren't just this. Success in business is obviously money, right? How profitable your business actually is. So that's really important to me right now. So I mean, I feel good, but I feel like I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But yeah, I'm pretty close to that millionaire mark on paper, So probably like next year, like a deal or two that's value add, I'll get there.
You'll be 22 and you're a millionaire and you're making at that point. I don't know what you're making, but I'm guessing with a little bit of the real estate you have. How many short term rentals did you say you have?
9.
Nine. I mean, with nine short term rentals, some other different properties you have, like I'm sure you're making, six figures or very close to it and or over. Like you don't even need the military income anymore. Like, dude, that's amazing. 22 years old. Like some of the people in my Facebook group here listening to the podcast later, watching it live on YouTube, they're gonna be like jealous. They're like mid 40s and like, fuck, I wish I had done this years ago. And then you're hanging out with the likes of TJ Tijani and going around and speaking on short-term rental circuits. I mean, like, dude, this is freaking fantastic, man. I'm excited for you. I I started at 20 years old in real estate. I was just right around your age and became a millionaire by the time I was 30. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 27. So you're like 5 years ahead of me. It was so, dude, that's killer, man, dude. Congrats.
Thank you. I
Yeah, yeah,
appreciate that. And I would say, like, for me, I suffer from this too, right? Because there's like, I see 19-year-olds. Like, I will not name her, but there's a 19-year-old from my whole town or from my hometown who's a millionaire at 19, So, like, I suffer from the whole, like, envy thing. But what I've learned, and I got this from a podcast I was listening to, is like, envy or jealousy is like the thief of joy. So instead of being so caught up or being jealous of where someone else is and you're not there personally, like you should draw inspiration from that person. And so now when I look at people who are at where I want to be and they're younger than me, I just get inspired because that means I can do it too. It's
yeah,
like an African thing as well. Like my mom would always tell me if I like didn't get straight A's when I moved, my stepmom when I moved
yeah.
to Texas. She would always tell me like, this person got all A's. Does he have two heads? So now it kind of like is stuck with me. Like this person's doing X, so they don't have two heads. So that means I can do it as well.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm very thankful you said that for the brief conversation we had right before we went live. Don't tell anybody I told you what I told you, but yeah, man, that's a blessing in my heart. So I greatly appreciate you putting that out into the world for us. So, how much longer you got left in your military contract, and are you planning on continuing to serve afterwards?
No, I'm not realistic. I
Yeah,
knew I wasn't realistic from the day I joined.
yeah,
It's nothing bad about the military. I just have big goals that require more of my time. But I have, if everything goes well, I can get out January of next year. But my official contract does, or January of 2024,
yeah,
January of 2024. But if I get an unfortunate set of circumstances, then my contract doesn't end until August 2024. So I have
Okay.
some time.
So you'll be 22, out of the military, financially free, a millionaire, making $700,000 a year net profit. What the hell are you going to do with yourself?
Buy more houses.
Well, you guys heard it first at the Short Term Rental Investors Facebook group and the 5-Star STR podcast, Five-Star STR Success podcast. I left out a word. That's a mouthful. I'm probably going to rename the podcast. But anyways, dude, that's killer, man. I am like really, really excited about this. So I've got a daughter. This may make me feel old by saying this, but I've got a daughter. She's just turned 18,
Oh,
and
congrats.
she's wanting to go to college, and I want her to do whatever she wants. Go experience the world and things like that. But I am kind of coaxing her to say, look, while you're in college, you need to make some good money. Don't go out and get a dead end job because I'm trying to. She's got a job right now with Hobby Lobby, and I'm trying to reprogram her. So I've got her getting her real estate license, which that's self employment. You're going from the E quadrant to the S quadrant, but then I'm going to try to convert her into B because she's trying to she's wanting to buy a short term rental, and I want to help her out with all this. So we're working through all this. So I'm hoping that she can kind of follow in your footsteps here and kind of really get the bug earlier on. You got any advice for any of us that's here? That's I'm 40 years old. Any advice with us here that are listening that's in my age group that has a kid that's maybe slightly younger than you coming up into this world? How can we program them in a way? I mean, I guess you can't push anything on anybody, but how can we influence them? Like, what's some things that we can do to influence them to think like you, if that makes sense?
For me, this is what I did. I'm not a parent, so I have no idea like how that influencing part works because I know how hard headed, I don't listen to anything my parents say,
My kid don't either.
unfortunately. But I would say for me, I completely brainwashed myself. So what I was like in the switching my mind from, being a doctor, going to school, going the traditional route, I'd like to say, I did a lot of like my entire Instagram feed was just business, entrepreneur, real estate investor. So every time I'm scrolling, that's all I'm seeing. I started seeking out people online, like how I cold DM'd you. I've cold DM'd a lot of people. And I just am like, hey, I'm interested in this stuff too. Like, we should chat. So exchanging ideas with other people, reaffirming those things. And like, I just kind of turned my entire world into that. So like, even though like at work, everyone's like more along that traditional route, all my online friends and then my Instagram feed, all the things I'm looking at are just business, real estate, just that mindset. And you see all those motivational like videos and things like that. Like, it's just kind of like full on. You kind of have to engulf yourself with it because I so desperately wanted to be successful. Like, I actually was thinking about the other day. I was talking to my dad and I was like, I think the only reason I wanted to be a doctor, I didn't want to be any doctor. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And the reason why I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon is because when I was in like 7th grade, I looked up top highest earners in the country and that job just popped up. So I like really want,
Yeah.
I just really wanted it badly. So I think for some people, they just need that to just have that around them all the time, change the friends that they have. But it is difficult
Yeah.
if you don't have any need to, or if you're comfortable where you're at, to
Yeah.
not do that. Because if all your friends are, just regular Joes, then you're probably going to be a regular Joe.
So I'm getting some self discovery here. So basically, there's no way I can influence her to want this life. She's got to want it for herself. That's
Yeah.
good. And then secondly, um, you know what? You become a product of the environment you're in and the people that you associate with and the books you read. So I feel like she's in a good environment, except she's still in high school and maybe going to college and getting around different people. She'll have realized the kind of lifestyle she's been uh, brought into that maybe may not transcend with others. I don't know. But another thing too is a lot of people that I see that have become significantly successful at a younger age are people that have come in and out of hard backgrounds. Not everybody, you could have the average person that was raised in a nice middle class family and or a upper class family, and they just got it. They get it. But somebody like yourself, somebody like me that grew up in a trailer park, my wife in another trailer park, not really having a lot growing up, we tend to fight more. And I've read a book about this, and I think it's just designed in us because we just didn't have it growing up, and we want to have it now and have whatever that is for us per se. And I think that makes us more of a fighter and a bulldog spirit. So we just go out there and we hustle essentially. Would you say that is more of a a true factor there?
Yeah, I think like that is true to an extent. Like you said, like obviously there's like different set of circumstances that make even the middle class people with cush lifestyles growing up want it bad. But I just think it comes down to like the mentality of the person and how they're wired, or some circumstance that makes them wired that way. But definitely coming from a place of lack, it enables you to have that fire to fight for something more because you know how. Am I allowed to curse or no?
Go
Oh,
fucking curse.
okay.
God dang it.
Like you realize how shitty being broke is and being poor is. It
Yeah.
fucking sucks.
Yeah, it
So
does.
like you don't want to experience that again. You don't want to like, you're like, man, life has to
Yeah.
be better than bread and water every day, man. So you just kind of get after it and you try and make it so you don't have to just eat bread and water, just live in, Section 8 housing or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man, dude, I love this conversation. So let's go back to short term rentals. You got 9 short term rentals. Where are they located?
so I have one in the Smoky Mountains, in the Great Smoky Mountains. I have a cabin. So that was my first one. I have 2 in Beaufort, South Carolina, and then I have the remaining 7 in, is that math right? Or 6? 6 or 7?
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's 6. I don't know.
In Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Are you self managing or do you have
Yep.
a property manager? Okay.
Yeah, I self-manage. It kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah.
That 20% that they charge me is still worth my time.
Sure. What's the technology stack you utilize while
Yeah,
you're
that's a
while you're
great
deployed?
question.
And actually, two-part question. What's the technology stack that you utilize? And then when you're deployed, how do you oversee this? Because I'm sure you're pretty busy out there in the field.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I use Hospitable. That's my PMS. Turnover BNB, Hostfully for Guidebook, and then Price Labs.
Hmm.
And do I use anything else? Yeah, I think that encompasses everything.
Okay.
Yep. That's what I log into at least. And then I
Do
just
you,
kind
do
of
you do
like
your own messaging?
no, that's what Hospitable does.
Oh, okay.
Hospitable does like the canned messages and automated messages. Like I have some going out right now. And so those are the softwares that I use. And then obviously like bookkeeping, Stessa, and things like that. And it makes it pretty passive. And goes, anything that isn't passive is usually my fault, meaning I didn't put the time into creating a system so that question wouldn't get asked. And occasionally you just have the guests that want to talk to you for no reason. But
Right.
yeah, that's the tech stack that I use. What was the second part of that question?
How do you run all of this while you're
Ah,
deployed?
yeah. So I don't think managing short-term rentals when you have all the technology isn't that hard. It doesn't take a lot of time. I would say that part is probably the easiest.
What about like hospitable? You're utilizing essentially AI to communicate with your guest. Essentially, there's got to be some keywords that are not utilized, and you have to actually answer yourself from time
Yeah.
to time. So how does that become cumbersome while you're deployed?
It becomes annoying, but when I'm deployed, what I'll do is I'll like pay someone like a few $100s a month to respond to like messages. So I'll
Mm,
be like, hey, oversee this. I'll give you like $300 or $500. If I don't respond within 5 minutes, I need you to go ahead and do it. So that's typically what I'll do when I'm deployed. Same thing for my long-term rental, my rent by the bedroom. That's why didn't know if I had 6 or 7 because one of them's my rent by the bedroom. That same thing. If like I have something that they reach out to me for, then you jump in there because I'm probably not able to. So it's just
mm,
coordinating that way. And right now I am hiring a virtual assistant, or I've hired one. I have to fire him because He's not the greatest. So I'm going through that process of finding that person to do that for me full time to
Mhm.
make it even more passive. But when I'm deploying and stuff, it's as simple as just training somebody, giving them some Loom videos to watch that I've created, and then they just respond to messages.
Right, right. How are you, so you said you got 9 properties. How are you staying what am I trying to say? How are you staying above the pack per se? How are you separating yourself apart from the pack to not have mass adoption, meaning like saturation of STR markets pull you down? Like, how are you keeping your properties busy and occupied and things like that? Or maybe you don't need it yet. Maybe your market's Buford or Savannah or this or that. All these, Smokies a little bit saturated, but maybe you got in and it was great property at a great price. But how are you going to transcend time as markets become saturated and make sure that your portfolio still brings in the bacon, basically?
Yeah. So what one thing I learned from my cabin, because that's a very good question, and I know you've experienced this some with Blue Ridge, is like you got a mass influx of demand, but you got a huge influx of people taking their properties from the grandma property managers and putting them on Airbnb. So what I've been doing is like I make sure I get professional and not professional, designer. I hire a designer to make the property nice. I make sure the property's in that like most desirable location. And I also one thing I do is I buy right now. So
Mhm.
like a lot of people I see paying like top dollar for these STRs, where if their property's not in the 75 percentile, they are not making any money. For me, I try to buy so where I could be in that 50th percentile. So like anything
Mm.
in the 75th, 90th percentile is just icing on the cake. My properties could do very poor by what they're supposed to be doing, and I would still hit my revenue projections because I'm so
Right.
focused on buying the asset right. And
Yep.
then another thing that I'm doing is I'll look at my competition. And so most properties in Savannah, for example, it's just a nice property in a good location with
Yeah.
nice furniture. So what I'm doing is I'm actually adding amenities. So like Savannah and Buford, they're not hot tub markets. Like in the Smokies and Blue Ridge, everyone has to have a hot tub. I'm adding in hot tubs. I'm
Mm.
putting in fire pits. I'm putting in amenities that are a must have in these other vacation rental markets that are more competitive and adding them here. And one thing I like about Savannah, you know this because I think you had a property there,
I
is
did.
their restrictions are
Oh, yeah.
so crazy. So
Yeah.
it deters a lot of these out of state investors. So I did that strategically because I knew that with Savannah, they have so many rules and regulations. So they're artificially cutting down the supply because you're
Mm.
not able to do short-term rentals in a lot of these places. You have to work very hard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
once I'm able to find an asset that works within the regulations and I put it on there, I'm not as worried as I am in the Smokies or Blue Ridge, where it's you like Oprah, you get a cabin, you get a cabin, you get an SDR certificate. Savannah
Mhm.
is very, very strict with how you do that, and they lie to you. Even if you can, they'll tell you you can't. So it
Yeah.
makes it very beneficial.
Well, I've got in the words of one of the guys that leads, that's one of the founders of GoBundance. I got to say, oh shit! You said, you had a. I might just start incorporating that in my podcast. You said something that was an oh shit moment for me. Is like, okay, we're all trying to learn to purchase good cash flow on properties, and we're going off of, hey, we can outperform everybody else by performing in the 95th percentile. And yes, we do cuss. You fucking said that I got the note right here. You say that you're going to try to outperform by being in the 50th percentile. You're not trying to raise prices, push prices, and this and that. You're just going in and saying, hey, this is what it can perform at 50%, and I can still make money. Now you know how to crush the competition. You're going to make so much more because you probably will be in the 90 to 95th percentile. It's like, dang, man. Oh, shit. I mean,
Yeah,
holy crap, man. That's a light bulb flew off. If we can, so I think the nugget there and all that you've said so much in this episode. It's amazing. But the nugget there is we just got to get it to perform at 50%. And if I can get it to cash flow at that, I've already won. So
exactly.
if I can get it to cash flow even more on a baseball game analogy, I've hit a home run and a grand slam. If I hit freaking 95th percentile, I'm killing it, crushing it. You're putting everybody else out of business. So you dude, That's a great way to underwrite. I've never heard anybody say that. Dude, you're going to be a multi-millionaire by the time you're 30. I mean, just keep thinking like you're doing, and um, that's killer, man. I think that's a great nugget right there, and I'm going to start reevaluating my next few purchases by being the loser, and not don't take that the wrong way, but being the loser on income, and if I can perform in cash flow really well at that 50% of the income or whatever, then dude, then I know I'm gonna crush it because we're better anyway. So I'm gonna start putting that in performance, dude. That's killer, man. That's so good.
Absolutely. And I realized because like I said before, what I do is I use other people's money to do these things. And I had a bunch of people reach out to me this time last year talking about, I want a partner, I want a partner. But when I was looking at these opportunities, I didn't like the fact that there was so much pressure on me to hit these revenue projections. And the only way I could hit these revenue projections were at those like higher echelon of performance. So like that's why I like and I preferred that model that we just talked about is because now when now I'm like, this is kind of really the worst it's probably going to do, like realistically, if short-term rental doesn't get banned or goes away or whatever. And then this is what's probably actually going to do. So I get to get more referrals. People love me more. I'm not under tremendous amounts of pressure when I'm buying properties with other people's money, because to me, it's more important to perform where someone else is overlooking the performance of the property rather than when it's the properties I'm buying myself.
Yeah. All right, dude. That's so good, man. So my I used to do hour-long interviews, but now I'm like, people's attention span is so low, and they can't go on so long. And I don't want to exhaust you and or anybody else. So we got 3 minutes to wrap up. What I want to do is ask you a few. I haven't done this since like the beginning of my podcast, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever I started. I think it was 4 years ago, and it was a different podcast back then, but it's all on the same stream. Let's do some rapid fire questions. What is the most impact? Well, now I want to hear this from you specifically because you know, you got young man's zeal. Like you're going to take over the world. I want to hear what's been your the best book you've ever read. What's the top book you've ever read that's made an impact on your life?
I would say The One Thing by Gary Keller. That book changed my mentality when it came to like goal planning and things like that. Like where I'm at now, I know I talked about beginning not being where I want to be, but that's
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that the goals I set from reading that book were too small.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, every year I want to add $10,000 a month in passive income. And then I was like, well, it doesn't take that much when you're doing short-term rentals to hit that goal. But at the time where I only had, I don't know, $2,000 a month maybe in passive income, it felt like a huge goal. So that book, I would say 100% was a very impactful book to me.
Okay. Um, Favorite piece of technology in your technology stack?
Um, Hospitable. I will go with hospitable. It's been very helpful. I don't know sometimes when a guest is checking in and checking out, and those are the best guests.
Yeah.
So it's been great at like automating everything for me on the messaging side.
Advice for a first-time short-term rental investor.
Buy right. I would say like stop like develop a deep relationship with the people that are sending you leads and just find those deals. The deals that people are bringing to you that are like really great. I'm talking, don't just settle for your cash on cash returns and everything. Just try and find really amazing deals that you can buy right and make money from, because I see a lot of like I mean I don't like it buying the $1 million homes that only work as short-term rentals and only cash flow if you're in the 90th percentile. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't personally do that. I would try to buy a little bit better and
Yeah,
find those amazing deals.
absolutely. It's good advice. Single or taken?
Single.
There you go, women. I want to DM them on Instagram. Dude, thank you so much. This has been freaking awesome, very impactful. I think it's going to help a lot of people. We're going to get this chopped up with some virtual assistants, get it out there on Instagram, TikTok, try to help make us all a little bit more out there in the world so that people can get these nuggets. Do you have any last things that you want to say to the audience here, and or anything you want to plug, what you got going on here in the near future in the STR world or speaking world?
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has any speaking opportunities, I'm really, really, really trying to get into more speaking, public speaking, and I think I'm being improved and getting a lot better at that. So I'm always down to do that. Anyone wants to partner, I sometimes I have more deals than I have money to buy. So if anyone wants to do some business joint venture together, just hit me up on Instagram, and then follow me on Instagram. I'll be posting a lot more about the properties that I'm doing, how they're performing, and showing some transparency in hopes of helping or inspiring other people. So Jabbar_investor on Instagram, JABBAR_investor. Instead of store, it's star.
Awesome. Dude, that is so awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm going to plug my businesses as well. We are listening to this and we don't have sponsors and we're doing it on purpose, but you can support us by going to wherever you listen to podcasts, go and give us a 5-star review. That will help us push up in the rankings. You can also buy homes through my brokerage, strwealthbrokers.com. You can hit me up on Instagram at Brandon G. Thompson, and I will personally find out where you want to buy. It could be in North Georgia, all over the mountains. It could be in Atlanta and its suburbs. And we know all the different places and the regulations. It could be military base, Columbus, Georgia. It could be coastal Georgia. We can help you find homes there. By the way, Columbus, Georgia is the most profitable ROI in the state of Georgia right now with the lowest acquisition price. We've studied it out. We also have our management company. We are now taking on management clients. SouthernCharmVacay.com is our site. And you just reach out to me again at Brandon G. Thompson, as well as if you are wanting to learn how to self-manage and to grow and scale, start, grow, scale. We have a mastermind. I don't have a nice website for it. It's private invite only. And I actually interview you, make sure you are the right fit. We have our own little setup, our own little off platform app on Circle. But we have a mastermind. It's $5,000 for the year. What you get is you get 30-minute coaching calls once a quarter with myself to help streamline you all the way between A to Z. On a fiscal year, you get first come, first serve discount tickets on our mastermind meetups twice a year, which more about that when I talk to you on the phone. And you also get monthly Zoom calls, as well as we're going to have guest speakers come in and teach and train you. We might even bring Jabbar to teach and train you on how he does different like subject to and no money down techniques. We've got that coming up. Just DM me again at Brandon G. Thompson, as well as I have an affordable housing fund. I am not just in short-term rentals. I've been in real estate for 20 years. We do brokerage, we do building, we do all that stuff. We do STRs. I've got an affordable housing fund. Blue collar America and the poor don't have houses. There's not a lot of houses out there and they're struggling. We are building houses to build 1,400 square foot homes to rent out at affordable home prices. And we are raising a $5 million fund for it. And you can go to theliveoakcapital.com and we're going to be paying you 7 to 10% on your money. It's regulated by the SEC. If you are an accredited investor and you need to pull some money out of savings and put it in here, we can give you a stronger rate of return. And just know you're actually doing mankind and womankind a good deal. So thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for Jabbar. Thank you, Jabbar. And dude, been amazing. Talk to you soon, brother. Man. Stay on here. I'm going to talk to you after this.